Welcome to Modern Alchemy. Today we have a very special guest. We have Drew Eisler here. Drew is the founder of Deep Cut Collections, an art gallery completely dedicated to music. Deep Cut Collections is the leader of authentic music artwork, framed to perfection, and safely shipped to your doorstep. The process is quick and simple. Choose your favorite piece from their extensive collection, and I really like it because they have tons of options, and then they take care of the rest. Your art will be shipped directly to you, ready to hang. Deep Cut Collections services everyone from music lovers who want to show off their musical taste through decor in their homes to larger commercial clients such as corporate offices, hotels, and restaurants. What's really cool about Deep Cut Collections is they also moved into the corporate gifting space, which feels a lot more authentic than some generic gift. I personally have the Sgt. Pepper album hanging in my kitchen. It's one of my favorite albums. It's makes me so happy every time I look at it. The whole process, as I mentioned, was super seamless. And when it arrived, it came in this beautiful packaging and it just felt super extravagant. And even when you look at it, it has this beautiful thick acrylic glass, which means that it's protected from the elements. You can have it anywhere. I have it in a very sunny spot and I'm not worried that the record's ever going to get ruined because it's so special to me. So welcome to the show, Drew.
Thank you. You nailed that intro.
Thank you so much.
You killed it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you like the frame.
I love it.
Yes.
It makes me happy every day.
Beautiful, yeah. I just saw it for the first time in your place. It's beautiful.
So every episode, we start with a really fun question.
Okay.
And I think, prefer the weirder the better. So I wanted to know,
Yes.
this is a would you rather question.
Okay.
Okay. Would you rather listen to shitty music on a great sound system for the rest of your life
Okay.
or really, really good music on a very shitty sound system for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Easy question for me. Amazing music on a shitty system.
What if it's crackling? You know, like old records, they kind of skip a little.
I like the crackle.
But what if it's like a whole section's cut out?
That's okay. It gives it character. But I am really into like amazing music displays, amazing vinyl record players. I'm big into like the stereo systems too. And our clients are, of course, too as well. But me, why I got into the business was just amazing music. And I'm always blown away. My favorite artists, honestly, are folks that are so organic with the way that they play music that just having just like this, sometimes the simplest songs, like a simple Elton John song, on the piano is huge.
Oh yeah, like an unplugged?
Yes, just like an unplugged version of that. And so I love very amazing, well-crafted music. So I will take that. Absolutely.
All day.
Absolutely. All
Joe?
day. All day.
It's shitty music on good speaker. Is it like shitty like the quality or like shitty bands?
Music that you essentially don't like. In my head, I pictured it would be like that Baby Shark song. I don't really know the song, but I've heard it.
But it's
I don't
in
know
like the
full
most
thing.
high fidelity music ever.
Yeah, and
I guess I would go, but I like that it's up to their interpretation, like how, because I'm thinking, I was like, is it the quality, like the record's fucked up? I would listen to good music.
Glad we can do that
on
on the podcast.
Bad sound system.
Yeah, so I have an old car and it has an 8-track player in it, and 8-track.
Wait.
Whoa, hold on. Yeah, that's amazing.
The Mustang has an 8-track player?
I didn't know that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it only has AM radio, but I have the 8-track player.
Does it work?
Yes.
I want to see that.
So
How come you've never given me a ride in the?
Oh, well, she's in the shop right now, but
Okay.
she's coming to the city soon, so don't worry.
All right.
I'll come scoop you up.
All right.
It doesn't really have good speakers, so that's the other fun thing.
Oh.
So that's where this question originated from. Because when I have the 8-tracks, I'll put them in, and you just don't know if the tape is
Right.
good or bad, if it's going
Right.
to play well or not. Sometimes they speed up on their own. Sometimes they slow down. It's very tough when you have a very bad sound system.
Is there an adapter? Like, remember back in the day when we had cassettes?
Right.
And then it
Yes.
would plug into like a CD.
Yeah.
Is there an 8-track to
There's
some
something
other?
similar, but it
gotta
doesn't
be.
really work well. I've definitely
Yeah.
tried it. I have a lot of
I've-
8-tracks. People have gifted a lot
Yeah,
to me.
I have an old 8-track player. My parents' old one.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, but I'm collecting the 8-track. So once I get it fixed, I can play it.
Oh, I love it.
That's amazing. But that whole experience of putting in the 8-track to your car, like that's what I'd be after. And
Give it a
you could hear the song, you know what it is, and the quality would be like, whatever. And if it was really good quality on a really shitty song, I feel like that might be more painful.
Yeah.
You know, if it was like something that you absolutely hated, that'd be more painful. You just hear it nonstop.
It's very possible.
Baby Shark, and it's like the
Right.
tweeters are like 20,000 hertz or whatever, and it's like piercing your eardrum. That song would be awful.
Then it stays with you
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. Good question.
Thank you so much. I have a million questions for you, but I thought we could just start with your origin story. And if you could just share
Yeah.
about Deep Cut Collections, how you got started, why you got started.
Absolutely. Love to. Great second question.
They're all going to be great questions.
I started the business. This is crazy. I've always loved vinyl records, so I've always been collecting vinyl records. And there got a point in my life where I wanted to frame the vinyl records. I feel like everybody has a favorite vinyl record that they want to frame. I had multiple, so I started actually framing them myself. And I remember getting the first frame. I think I got it from Michael's, or I would shop around and try to find the right one. But I could never figure out the right way to frame them. So I actually just started framing them myself, which was a pretty interesting process. And it actually became a business. So this is pretty interesting. I would frame records after going to my friends' weddings and listening to their first dance from their wedding. And sometimes I would know like the story behind the song, and I'd be like, oh, that would be amazing to track down, frame it. I would put little engravings on them, like the date that they got married, and then I would ship it to them. And every time I did it, they called me back and said, Drew, this gift is amazing. And they were being very, very sincere about it too. And then over time, they would hang it up in their house, and then people I didn't know would just text me like, hey, you don't know me, but I was just in your friend's house, and I love what you did for these guys' wedding. I have an anniversary coming up. Could you make one for me? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So this was years ago, and my friends convinced me to build a business around that. And so we did. And that actually worked relatively well. That was my first crash course into starting a business. So a lot of things I did incorrectly, but it's just a learning process. But one thing that happened through that whole process was there was a lot of people that just emailed me and said, hey, I don't have a wedding. We love that idea, but could you just frame all the Beatles albums for me? And I said, yeah, of course we can do that for you. So there was this other business model that came out of it, another product. And so we just decided to pivot to an art gallery completely dedicated to music that we could curate so many different products based on what people wanted. And so that's how it really started. And so I rebranded, and that has been going on for about almost 2 years. Yeah.
I love the organic origin story. Like, just the passion you had, and you're like, no one's doing it the right way. I want to do it the best, or like
Right.
that differentiation
Yeah.
in the market too. It's like, yeah, you can go to Michael's and get something framed. Not to throw shade at
Right.
Michael's.
Yeah.
If they want to sponsor us,
Yeah.
they're welcome to.
Yeah.
But
Michael, I'd love to put my frame in Michael's too as well.
I really like that wedding idea that you just kind of did it as like, this is the
Right.
thing that I do for folks. My dad, this is not as cool, but my dad buys people crystal clocks, like these little crystal
Yeah.
clocks. That's
Yeah.
like his thing
Yeah.
that he does
Yeah.
for weddings.
Right.
So whenever they
Right.
look at
Yeah.
it, they're going to think of me. And I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. But it's
Yeah.
cool that
Very
you had
niche,
like
yeah.
your thing that you just love doing, and then it also wound up segueing into an actual enterprise.
Yeah. Obviously, if a couple is dancing to a song, they have a huge connection to it. But I really started it because I had such a big connection to music, which also meant almost everybody has a big, sincere connection to music too as well. So there's always going to be like one album that is almost a part of people's lives. And there's so many albums like that for me because I was such a big music fan that it was almost like having your favorite book. I'm a big reader too. When you read books, it's cool to read it on a Kindle or something. But if it's your favorite book, you want that hard copy. And I actually don't just want it in my library. I kind of want to see it because it means so much to you. And that's what I wanted for the visual aspect of the music artwork, especially these framed vinyl records. The vinyl record is so aesthetically pleasing, and the cover art with the disc that comes out, there's just something about it that's hard to explain, but everybody that loves vinyl records just has that same feeling. So I knew there was something here, so I just needed to figure out a way to frame it better than anybody else. And then, of course, start a business around it, figure out the logistics, the packaging, how to market it. And so that's been extremely exciting too, and something I never thought I'd do in my career either. So that was pretty interesting.
One of my favorite albums is the Nirvana Unplugged album.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, so you have these songs or these albums that are representative of her time in your life. But I'm not cranking that album on repeat. But when I do hear it, I'm like, oh, this is really nostalgic. I think creating another sensory experience where you can look at it and go, that is a meaningful thing to me, even though I don't listen to it every day, is so cool. That adds like a whole nother level of the sensation, even the emotional acuity to the music itself.
That's exactly what I want my business to reflect. That just that connection to the music, and you don't need to be listening to the music all the time. And the fact is, you can only listen to one song at a time. You can try to listen to multiple songs, but it's not going to be that cool. So yeah, it just means the music means so much to people, and it's almost a part of who you are. Whether it's not music that you grew up with, music that is motivational to you. I found out that is part of our clientele, especially in the corporate world. What I thought was going to be a direct-to-consumer business, which we are. There's a lot of amazing collectors that we service and help track down albums and ship them to them. We also found there's huge clients for the commercial space, companies that value music, record labels, of course, but even just, we send a lot to attorney offices that almost use it for motivational. Sometimes there's unique stories behind them that they gift it to other people in their office. The new thing that we're doing for companies is anniversary gifts with little plaque engravings, which is really, really fun. And it just kind of proves that people just have this raw energy and instinct to love this music. And it really creates this really, really cool, authentic gift for people, which is an avenue that we're going down now too.
What's the motivational? Is there a similarity overlap?
So
what songs are they?
The motivational ones, this has happened a couple of times. So there seems to be a trend, and they've sent me pictures of it in their executive suites. But it's all pretty hardcore rap.
Really?
Yeah.
Like Eminem, like 8th Mile.
Eminem.
That's gotta be up there.
Yeah. Dr. Dre.
That album's 20 years old. We're old now when you think about it.
Right. And the folks that are crushing it in the attorneys, in the law world are our age.
Yeah.
and they're I think it kind of brings a motivation to them. And another big clients that we have are just entrepreneurs too as well. That kind of they get into their office space and they realize there's nothing on the walls. It's the last thing you think about when you're an entrepreneur, right? You're bootstrapping everything, and then you finally can afford office space and you get there. And you don't think about the art on the wall. And sometimes there's just no art on the wall for years. And then they see our products, and it's usually the entrepreneurs are like, they're not going to necessarily. Sometimes we work with interior designers, but sometimes folks are just like, okay, we can just grab a bunch of these and put them up in our office, and they'll be inspiring every time we look at them.
Changes the whole aesthetic.
Right. And it's fun too.
Especially when you're on those Zoom calls. You got to curate that background.
Oh,
They
yeah.
look sick.
Yeah. No, they're great.
Yeah.
They're great in Zoom backgrounds too as well. Yep.
Drew and I have known each other for years, and it's really exciting to see your friend just build something out of nothing. And there's so much more to Drew than just this part of the business. So I want to dig a little bit deeper.
I appreciate that.
Over last fall, he ended up going to Italy. End of summer, he went to Italy. And I just wanted to know if you could speak to that. I know the point of leaving the U.S. was to look for inspiration. And I think the story's extremely interesting.
I'm glad you thought of that. Yeah, you remember that. I was in this unique opportunity where I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to leave the country, and I was working remotely. We've got 2 locations in the U.S. that are framing the albums for us now and framing the music records. So it's like, hey, and I was in my apartment working sometimes like 18-hour days, more often than not, and I felt a little bit trapped in my apartment. And so I really needed some inspiration. A really good friend of mine used to travel via Airbnbs. It's really great. You can get an extended stay that's not incredibly expensive if you pick a cool city to do it in, especially too. So I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to go to Florence. This is the only time I'll probably be able to do it in my life. Or maybe, hopefully I get to do it later too. So I booked an Airbnb in Florence for 2 months, and I just left. And it was funny. I didn't mention it to too many people. I think I told you, and I told our friend group a few weeks before. And I was like, hey, if anybody wants to come visit, go for it. But I'm mainly just going there to kind of be by myself for a little bit. And obviously good friends visited, which was great. But I wanted to be inspired by the location of where I am. And I'm inspired by Chicago all the time, where the business is located, and in other cities too. But there's something that happened in Florence, with the Italian Renaissance that just affected the world so profoundly. And there was so much genius in a small circle of the city during the Italian Renaissance, that something special had to have happened there. So I studied that a bit. People gave me books about it too, which is really, really cool.
You said Florence is a very small city. I remember you mentioning that you could essentially walk from one end to the other. Is that correct?
Yeah. I thought about going to Rome for a second. I really wanted to pick an Italian city, but I felt like Florence was so small. I think it's around 300,000 folks, and obviously tons of tourists come. But you can walk from one edge of the city to the other edge of the city in about 20, 25 minutes. And you pass by some of the most amazing statues and amazing pieces of art, you will ever see in your lifetime is just kind of just right there. So you're just constantly just walking around, just inspired by so much stuff. And obviously art, I have an art gallery. It's completely dedicated to music, but I'm a huge art fan too as well. And you kind of just want to tap into that energy. And I've learned the best way to tap into like interesting ideas is to just mesh all types of things that don't look like they go together. And I knew like, okay, I'm an American. Lately I've been doing a little bit more traveling, but I didn't grow up doing a ton of traveling. So like every time I travel, I'm inspired because you see something new and you try to reconcile that with the way that you've been doing things. And it can really be pretty powerful. So I realized that the first time I traveled to Europe, I was seeing so many things done differently. Sometimes it's better than we do it in the US. And sometimes it can be vice versa too, but it's just different and it still works. So when we're trapped sometimes in the corporate lifestyle, you just get so focused on just one road and you get kind of into a rut. It wasn't in a terrible rut, but I just needed to be inspired. So whenever I want to be inspired, I go travel and I always come back with like, oh, wow, I saw something different. How can I bring it back to the way I'm doing things now?
Do you have any examples of what you did do different after that?
Oh, very good question. Very good question. I know the first time I traveled was pretty profound. And I'll have a couple Florence too. I can highlight one of those too. But the first time I did it was so profound because I kind of thought that business was just done in one way. And your career was done in one way. Pick a company, do the right things that folks tell you to do, and then you'll get to the next step. And then when I went to Europe for the first time and visited Amsterdam and a couple other places, you just see business done a little bit differently too. And it wasn't as like intense, I guess, but the business still got done and people just lived a little bit differently. And it wasn't always like the 9-to-5 grind. I felt like Europe allowed other things to permeate through the day that helped out not make it so intense and maybe opened up their minds to more things. At least that's what I got out of it. So the biggest thing I took away was I should open up my day to different things happening to me, new experiences, as opposed to just staying, sending emails from 9 to 5, having the same exact meetings that we've always had, because you don't really get anywhere from that. So that's the biggest thing from my first trip. Florence, I would say I met some amazing people, and that was really great. And I think I learned a lot about comfort zones because I knew I was going to be there for 2 months. It's the first time I've left for that long. And I knew once I got there, I just need to make it work. And it was really good for business in that way. I was like, I need to make friends. It's great in any city. The best way to make friends is just go to a pub. And if you can buy another drink for someone, that's usually a pretty good friendship maker. So I would default to that. So it was that. From Florence, it was like, hey, get out of your comfort zone and make it work. Put yourself in a position to where it has to work. Because there's no way I was going to go over there and then, okay, this isn't working, I'm coming back. I'm here for 2 months, I'm going to make it work, and you need to make the best of it. And it's Florence, so obviously you're going to make the best of it. It's amazing.
One thing that I loved you said, the kind of first paradigm shift being, and I'm going to compare this to kind of how American is like grind culture, hustle culture, which is
good too.
It's popular, especially with new entrepreneurs, founders, entrepreneurs in general, especially the propagation of that narrative on social media. Were you more in that grind hustle culture? Did going over to Europe help you learn how to balance? And what's your philosophy on that, maybe at early stage, mid stage, and where you're at in your mental space as an entrepreneur right now?
Yeah, I think my answer is you kind of need everything. There's times where you just need to hustle. You need to put your head down and just do it and just grind it out. There's stuff that I need to do with my website. I've got great folks helping out with the website, but when you need to add 100 products, write the product descriptions, AI helps a little bit now. But there's just so much work that you need to get done with that. So sometimes you just need to lock yourself away and just do that. So that's the grind hustle.
No one else is going to do it for you.
Nobody else is going to do it. AI isn't there yet. Maybe someday. I spent a year making the website because I knew I wanted to make it very user-friendly. Like, hey, pick the art you want, choose the frame, boom, you're done, we ship it to you. I just want to make it very, very easy, and I think we built a website like that. And I spent extra attention just in my zone for about a year doing that. But then we launched the website, and of course, nothing happens, right? So then you need to get into another mindset of, okay, now this is a different part of the business. It's a different stage where you just need to market. You need to get it out there. And at that point, I was just like hustling, being by myself for a long time. So I was like, now I need to go shake hands with people. Now I need to figure out if we're going to spend money on advertisements, and you need to get it out there. So you just need to be the voice of your company at that point now too. So you need to be a lot of different things. You honestly, you need both. You know, sometimes it is kind of the American way, just hustle, hustle, hustle. But a part of that hustle is getting out and meeting people. And I think that's what I got from traveling. And because folks will tell you there's a right and a wrong way to do it. But in my opinion, you need to figure that out for yourself.
Especially what's right for you.
Right.
May not be right for someone else.
Yeah. There's no set plan when you start a business. You got to be okay with that. And then when something's not working, just try something completely different. And so that's what the traveling really helped out with my philosophy. I try to run my businesses. If something isn't working and we're kind of in a rut, I try to do something completely different. And even if it doesn't work, sometimes something spins out of it, which is really, really cool. So you just need to constantly try new things. And I'm constantly floored by cool things happening that you had no idea was going to happen. And I think most entrepreneurs and people that start businesses will probably have that same story of like, I thought my business was going to be this, but it turned out to be this. Because you found out one thing, you're like, okay, now this is our niche. Now we roll with that. And so I've heard people talk about that before, but then for the first time I felt it. Just like when, we were focused on, wedding songs for folks that we still do. But there was this other bigger market of just like people that wanted other music things framed. So like, okay, this is a bigger market. That's what our clients want from us. Let's pivot to that.
I always liken entrepreneurship to learning to unlearn and then learning what you don't need, because then something does sprout from that. And then you follow that lead and you decide, do I need this or do I not need it? And that leads you in this other direction. It's a constant learning curve and it's constant failure to a certain regard, because you don't always need everything. And so you will waste time and you'll squirrel away doing something. You're like, oh, glad I spent 40 hours on that. I guess I don't actually need it at all. But now I know. And now I know how to do the thing.
Like entrepreneurs have this, like, we all have this kinesthetic learning style where I read it in a book, I heard it, but it didn't click until I did it and realized I did or didn't need it.
Right.
I was listening to a podcast and Robert Rodriguez was talking about, he made this movie with Quentin Tarantino called 4 Rooms, which was a absolute failure. Like, it bombed aggressively. Forget what it was, but he like met someone and did a cool thing that he used in another movie.
Right.
And that was one of his like most successful movies he ever made. And he's like, if I never did 4 Rooms, if I didn't like keep iterating or keep trying or pivoting, I would have never done this one thing. So it's the body of work, not the failures versus success, pros and cons list or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. There's a mentality of just being out there will result in good things. Even if the thing that you thought was going to work out turned out to be a complete dud. Sometimes I feel bad for movie producers because it's really hard to make a bad movie. I've heard someone say that years ago. I think it might have been Bill Murray. And that makes sense. You work so hard and then like you release the movie and then like it's just so hard to make a really, really good movie that people are like, okay, everybody needs to go see this. There's so many mediocre movies or movies that you probably don't want to see. But a lot of effort and money went into that. And a lot of people, it's great that the industry can do that. But yeah, it's just really hard to have something flop too. Like, it's hard work. But you're exactly right that just being out there doing things can turn into a good thing. And the majority of things won't turn out to be good things. I've learned that too.
How much value is there in the hustle phase compared to the phase where you're kind of looking at the two buckets, out there shaking hands and kissing babies, or is there value in both?
There's a value to absolutely both. You need both buckets. And I learned that right when I launched the website. I was like, this can't just be it. There's a part of me that was like, okay, now it's done. All right, everybody, come on, submit your orders, and then you show it.
Crickets.
Yeah, and you just hear crickets, right? and then at that point, you need to adapt and kind of change your mentality of like, okay, now this is the part of the business. Now that we're on like the movie analogy, I feel like you make the movie, and they're editing it, and all the faces of the movie go out and promote it. And it's a part. I'm sure that they don't love doing that, right? Day after day.
In the contract, right?
Right.
They have to do it.
Yeah.
They do like 100 in a day.
Right.
And they're just saying the same thing
over and over again. Yeah. And so I kind of feel for them doing that, but it's such a necessary component of getting the message out there.
It is awkward to, at least personally, to talk or brag about myself. There'll be nights I'll go out with people and I won't talk about myself whatsoever because I just feel weird about it. But in this industry, at some point, you have to.
Yeah. You've got to shout your business quite a bit.
Deep cut collections.
Deep cut collections. Yeah. You got to shout it.
Gang, gang.
Yeah.
Don't ever be sorry for saying as a Tupac fan, I love it.
Oh, shit. Let's go.
Yeah.
Are you
Amazing.
Tupac or Biggie, though?
Amazing shirt.
Real quick. You're Tupac.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was Tupac. I'm still team Tupac, but I prefer Biggie's music.
I'll take it.
I think the best thing is we have both, right? But Tupac, I grew up on like a lot of those.
But your Biggie album is one of the best sellers, isn't it?
Yeah, Ready to Die.
Really? Which Ready to Die?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's one of our best
It
selling
looks
albums.
really good
Is
in
that
the
the one with-
frame,
It just
too.
looks really good. The
It looks
white
really
the
good.
white album.
That's
yeah.
so cool.
With Notorious on the front, the baby Notorious. Yeah, it looks fantastic.
With the chain.
Yeah, it's a double LP, so it's a little bit elongated. The frame, it just looks beautiful. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs buy that one too. It's inspirational for some folks. And I can understand that.
His
Classic.
story is that rags to riches and to that extreme level that he went to of fame and stardom and whatnot. It's pretty cool.
Right.
From the dope game to the rap game.
Yeah, these albums tell stories too. It's not just, obviously through the music, they're telling their story, but there's a story behind that story too of just like how that album was made, what was going on in the world during that time. So yeah, the album just tells a story.
Or when you think about certain songs and you can place where you're at when you used to listen to them.
Right.
There's something about that too. I think about being 16 years old, finally having the freedom to drive and like having rap music on the radio. And I'm sure a lot of us have that similar memory of freedom. You're associating freedom with this kind of rebellious music that your parents probably aren't into. And I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell me nothing.
Right. That's it. That's that feeling. We're trying to package that feeling in the frame.
Hell yeah. You mentioned that a person doesn't need to be the smartest to start a business, that a lot of times it's more about the personality and perseverance more than the intellect. How has that opinion shifted from when you first started to now?
I still believe it. I had that instinct going into the business because in corporate world, I would sit in, executive meetings with a lot of great mentors who are sharper than I am and can do amazing things, with Excel spreadsheets, all that type of stuff. But we were still talking about the issues that we need to solve for were really pragmatic. And it was like getting product from point A to point B. It didn't require quantum physics to get the solution done. And so that was really powerful for me too, because I was fortunate enough to sit in those meetings with all my mentors, the CEO of the business and the chief of everything, every department, the people that you think when you're in corporate world that they go into a room and they start talking about things, you think being outside of that office, you think they're talking about like super smart stuff, right? But it's really just basic questions that they're trying to answer for. Again, getting product A to product B, right? You don't need some advanced degree to figure that out. You just need a lot of hustle, perseverance to figure it out. So being in those meetings really helpful for me, knowing that I don't have Einstein's IQ, but I do have these other abilities that can help solve these, and I help solve those problems. I was like, oh, okay, I belong in that room, but so do a lot of other people. So I think that message is important for other people to hear too. A pretty powerful book that I read was Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. I love the way that he explains nuanced things in the world. I think he's really great at doing that. And he was trying to explain what it takes to be successful in business. And it was the best educational response, like answer to like what it takes. Because some people are just like, it takes hard work. You have to be really smart. But he actually kind of just like studied it a lot and painted a picture that it takes actually like a lot of different factors going on. It even depends on who your social network is, because people just need to open doors for you too. Getting back to like your specific question is, I learned that you don't need to be the sharpest person. You need to be intelligent enough, but most people are intelligent enough. So I want to tell people that you are smart enough to do it. All you really need is perseverance to get through stuff and understand that everything's going to go wrong and just keep on going with it. And there's a lot of other factors that make a business work than just like some brilliant idea. There's a lot of brilliant ideas, but they don't ever turn out into successful businesses because the hustle factor isn't there. Or I'll say this too, I've talked to my really smart friends that are smarter than me, have their MBAs and everything, which is awesome to get. Sometimes they try to convince you out of starting a business because your corporate world is so nice and cushy, and it provides you the steady income. They look at the risk and they analyze it and they're like, oh, this doesn't make sense for you to do it.
I heard that so many times.
Right.
So many people tried to convince me. And I always think about it, that's your fear. You're projecting whatever your fear or insecurities are onto me. And I know it's always coming from a place of love. But no one that I talked to, I shouldn't say no one, a very small group of people, when I told them I was going to quit the corporate world, what do you mean you're going to quit? Are you sure? Have you thought about this? How are you going to make money? It's like people make money selling their feet on the internet. I'll figure it out.
Right.
And that's how we're subsidizing this podcast. Just so you know.
Yeah.
So if you take your socks off.
Socks
please.
off. Done.
Right. That's how we trick people to get in there.
Right.
Oh, this is just a long con for our foot only fans, our only feet.
I'm in. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm in.
This is the best cast ever. And a quick word from our sponsors, onlyfeet.com. Use the promo code Modern Alchemy. Just kidding. I love the concept of you need to be smart enough, but almost like if you're too smart, you become an analyst. I've always thought that intelligence was a double-edged sword. Like, I love being really smart, but it gives you this ability to self-analyze aggressively, which can be dangerous if you're not careful. Let's say someone's smart enough, but they don't have the stomach for the perseverance. Is that a muscle that you built, or have you always been built that way?
I think you can absolutely build that muscle. Ever since I was a little kid, I think I've always been a bit stubborn about things, which is helpful for business, because it takes a lot of stubbornness to be like, okay, you get a no every single day, and you just need to be stubborn. Okay, most people would have stopped by now. But you're just like, I know I can do this. I know I can do this. Whether it was usually sports stuff growing up, like just being stubborn about practicing so much to do one specific thing. I wasn't a very good soccer player. I played mostly baseball, but I remember I really wanted to make the travel soccer team one time, and I knew I probably wasn't good enough to make the team, but I was like, you know what? I've got like her thighs. I bet I can juggle the ball more than anybody else. And I was just really stubborn about it, and I figured out how to juggle the ball more than anybody else. And so when it came to the tryouts, there's this juggling part of it, and I could juggle more than anybody else. And so I think the coaches recognized that. I wasn't amazing at the other sides of things, but like, this kid tried so hard and he learned how to do this. He could juggle better than, the all-stars on the team. So I got on the team. I think about that sometimes, of just like, I was just so stubborn about doing that.
Did you recognize that niche? And you know what I mean? Like,
I had really
you weren't
thick
like,
thighs,
I have to become a soccer phenom. You're like, here's what I have skill-wise. Here's where I believe a gap in the market is for making the soccer team. How as a child did you notice that?
I don't know. I just knew that I wanted to get recognized somehow. And I wasn't the fastest person on the team. I wasn't the biggest. I was athletic enough to kind of go out there and try out. So I just needed something else. I can have a soccer ball and just go out in my front yard, my backyard for hours at a time and just learn this one specific thing. And then when it came time to show that off, I could show that off. And even though I was probably like a C in the other categories, I was an A+ in this one. Even as a young kid, I guess I recognized that I better do something pretty astounding in one specific thing.
I totally get this.
That's so fucking smart.
It's not as good of an example, but I'm really good at playing pool one-handed. And there was a point in time where I had a boyfriend that managed a pool hall, and we spent so much time there. And I was like, I'm going to be the best that can play one-handed. And I would play for hours. Ad nauseum. People would be like, I can't believe she's still over there. And I would just be knocking balls in. It's the same thing, just by myself. Maybe it's part of my only childness, but I did become really good. And even now, I could not be by a pool table. I could pick up a cue and I could knock balls in one-handed. It's a great bar trick. It's not really serving me in any facet of life other than this ability that I can show that I have perseverance and I can learn this skill. And I think too, I'm sure the coaches saw you and said, okay, Drew has dedication and he's also teachable. So if nothing else, we could mold him and we could help him to fix all these areas where he's not as good.
Right.
I mean, that's like kind of what college is about too, right? It's like not always about learning the information, but the ability to learn and to stay dedicated and to show up.
Right. That's a great example. I didn't know that you're a pool shark like that.
Remember that one time we were at that bar and there was a pool table in the back? My friend Andy was in town. It was a year ago.
Yes.
I was hustling so hard that night.
I kind of remember this.
I had that table. I must have played 8 or 9 games back to back. I was beating all the guys, and they'd be, I'm going to play next. I'm like, okay, get your quarters. Let's go.
Right.
Killing it.
That's great. Sometimes it's really great to be underestimated.
I love it. It's my favorite thing.
It is really great to be underestimated. I used to love that in corporate life.
Same.
What did you do in the corporate world?
After years of hiring and running a sales team, I became our company's director of human resources.
Oh, wow.
Things.
That's a pivot and a half. So my background is sales management also.
Oh,
so that's
cool.
why that's a really funny pivot, because the salespeople are the people that usually have to go to HR the most.
Yeah.
But maybe you having the understanding that world made you more a successful operator.
I worked at a startup company for a long time, and I knew I wanted to be a part of a startup. And so I got into one, and I was the 3rd employee, and then we grew to about 25 employees. And over time, I was actually just doing human resources functions that I didn't realize were human resources. I was recruiting people, hiring people, training people. And then I was running our payroll, figuring out what folks should be paid. And then there came a point where we needed to figure out healthcare for the company. And so I just wore that hat. And then I needed to figure out a 401k, retirement. And so I figured that out. And then over time, my CEO's great mentor, who was just like, why don't you just become our director of human resources? And I was like, I'm not human resources. I got offended. I was like, wait, I'm not human resources. And he's like, yeah, you are. And I think you love it. It's just all people oriented. And the thing I really loved about the position was I feel very privileged that I got to know the people at the company a little bit more than just being a colleague and a friend. That can be very cool and powerful too. But people would come to me with family situations that were confidential, even if it's just something from hey, this is going on in my life. I need to figure out the right health program to be in for my benefits, for my health care. Or, a very dramatic thing happened and I don't want anybody else to know about. But just I kind of need to let people know that something dramatic is happening, so I may not be myself for a couple weeks. I got to know people, and I felt privileged that people trusted me in that dynamic.
I will be honest, I don't trust human resources people. Not that I don't trust you, but you seem like the type of person who has this open kind of camaraderie where, I guess my backhanded compliment, I'm saying that it speaks a lot to your character that people would feel comfortable telling you those things, where I think in a lot of situations, I used to work at a really big company, and I would have in those situations worried that if I let them have a peek behind the curtain, that it would have actually affected my status or my standing at the company. So it's cool that people feel comfortable doing that, that there wouldn't be any sort of negative repercussions.
I appreciate that. It's an important function of the business, especially as the business grows. Right when a company gets to about 20 or so people, you really need someone kind of dedicated to it, in my opinion, just to keep everything, the culture good, and just making sure that the people are taken care of. But you can't always necessarily one human resources person when there's 10 people at the company. But it just goes to the CEO, and the CEO would rather be doing other things, of course, than running the payroll and figuring out the benefits.
Yeah, give it to the sales guy.
Give it to the sales guy. Yeah, right. And so, I'm very blessed that happened to me, and that my mentor saw that.
Building a business now that you kind of understand those functions you're doing are so directly related to the entire infrastructure that's going to be so valuable, especially as you keep expanding?
Yeah, it turned into my time as the director of human resources really helped me understand, especially because I was recruiting for all the different departments. So I needed to know a little bit about a lot. And that is oddly, I think, something that's overlooked, especially in starting a business. You can't know every single thing. You can't be an expert in every single function of your business. But you need to know a little bit enough. You need to know enough about everything to understand who's going to drive that for you and to be able to hire for that or get a partner for that. And if you don't, so it's a healthy balance, but you can't know everything. But I think what successful businesses do is know enough to put the right person in charge and lead that effort because you can't do everything. That's what I learned from human resources, which was pretty powerful thing.
You never know what you're going to learn that you can apply later. It's incredible.
Right. Yeah.
Since November, I've been geeking out with Drew. I told him I was going to quit my job, and he's been giving me a lot of advice. He's given me a lot of incredible recommendations of people that he looks up to. So while success is, of course, a factor, a lot of times it's more about the person mentally. And I wanted to know if you could speak to some of the people that inspire you, who now inspire me. We were together a couple weeks ago for your birthday, and it was really exciting. He comes over, you have to listen to this person, blah, blah, blah. He's giving me all this advice. And I think that people need to know more about this other side. It's not, to your point from earlier, it's not just about the business. It's not about being smart enough to run a business. It's about mindset also. Amazing question.
There's so many people I look up to. I'd be curious to hear who you guys look up to too. But we were talking about one of my favorite persons of all time. I've never met her, but Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. The way that she talks about the business is just amazing, and I would love to meet her at some point. Her husband, Jesse Itzler, is awesome too.
He's doing NetJets? Or it's like one of those jet companies, right?
Yeah, I think he's maybe had a couple of jet companies, but Sarah blew my mind away. I listened to a lot of podcasts with her, and she's one of the only people that I found that were talking about business in a little different way, of more of a mentality too, in a lot of businesses where it's men dominated too as well. She was like, I'm going to bring a different energy to things. And I really love the way that she talks about it. Everybody kind of just talks about, the steps of the business, but she really focuses on the mentality. One specific thing that she says is, if you want to do something big, you need to start looking internally. And not a lot of people say that when starting a business. They're like, okay, a lot of people are just thinking externally, what can I do to get stuff out there? But I believe that to be true. She's like, if you want to do something big, just work on yourself and think internally and focus on you growing as a person and the mentality of what's going to make you better. And you can do a lot of different practices. But she really focused on that side of it. And she said it has been the main thing that made her successful in building, this $1 billion business, Spanx. And so I didn't know that story until I heard her do the first podcast on how I built this with Guy Raz, which I love. And I was like, this is just a beautiful story. And she talked about the business differently, which was very, very cool. More about focus on what internally, making yourself a better person, and good things will happen because of that. So I try to think about that a lot. That's one person I look up to a lot.
We definitely have the same mindset. As an energy healer, I try to do healings on myself as often as I can. And it's easy to lose sight of that. In the day-to-day, you have all these things to do. You need to build a website. You need to go market it. You have to go blah, 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 blah. It's easy to forget about the stillness and the quiet time that is necessary in our own minds to work through problems. And that can be in the business, personal, whatever. But it's extremely impactful when we do set the time aside. Wayne Dyer, he used to always say, if you feel like you don't have enough time for meditation, then you should meditate twice as long because it's so impactful and it's so powerful. Right. And it's nice to hear a woman billionaire that's out there saying, I'm going to change the energy. I'm going to switch it up. Right. I'm also going to work on what's happening here so that I can show up the best. And clearly it's worked for her.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a great story about everybody that comes to work for Spanx. She gives the Dwyer tapes to her employees when they're accepted to be a part of the company. As part of the onboarding, they get the tapes that she listened to as a kid that helped her kind of transform her mentality of like being a no limit person. I think that's what his tapes were all about. Yeah. So it's a very powerful thing. I'd love to actually give a shout out to my mentors. I met a guy named Johnny Schillerith, who started Element Skateboarding in the 90s. I made that connection through a beautiful website called intro.co. So hopefully they can be a sponsor at some point. But it's a beautiful company. I had this idea where I need mentorship, I need guidance. There's got to be a platform to do that. So I started Googling it, and sure enough, there was a platform that had just launched that was like, hey, get advice from people that have done it before. And there was like hundreds of these business owners that are magnificent. Not everybody was, a Kim Kardashian or super, super famous, but when you look at their work, it's just phenomenal. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, I have access to these folks now. And so I booked a meeting with Johnny because I was a little bit familiar with his business, and I'd done a couple before too, which were great, but we just hit it off. And he was so generous with his time that it just sat with me. He helped me decide on, to pivot the business. So he gave me really good advice in that meeting. But he was just such a genuine person, and I'd been looking for someone to help me out with the business, help open doors for me and just be a mentor. But I hadn't found like the one person that just like felt right. And I thought about it for weeks afterwards. I was like, that meeting went so well. I got to follow up. And so I followed up and was pretty vulnerable. I was like, hey, I'm at this point where I just need mentorship. I'm doing this all by myself. And, I have no idea what I'm doing. Basically, I just said that. And he was like, love the way that you pitched that. He's like, I'm in. His company, Shield Projects, he and his right-hand man, Camden Storm, they're both skater boys. They're awesome. I'm pretty sure they're both professionals at some point. They're just amazing. And they're helping mentor me and opening doors for me too, because they believe in the product too as well. And so that, at this stage of the business, that has been incredibly, incredibly helpful. Yeah. And they're both involved. Johnny's the CEO of a nonprofit, USA Skateboarding, and just doing some fantastic work with that, putting skateboards in kids' hands every day, teach them how to skateboard, and
cool.
just being like a good mentor for those kids too.
I remember that brand. So I used to rock the skater shoes back in the day. I had some Element hoodies.
Their branding is, it's kind of an Element design. Yeah. It'd be sweet if we could just like put it on the
screen.
The screen.
Yeah.
We do. It's creative. They made killer skateboards. I remember. I know that.
If you're going to talk to a aspiring entrepreneur, a current entrepreneur who's at that inflection point, how would you suggest they go out and do that?
Wow. So I actually think we're at a really good point with technology where it's there. There's platforms like intro.co. You spend a little money to get, a quick sit down with folks. You can do it from anywhere, from like an interior designer, and you're looking to like design your place. They give feedback there. Or the way I use it I had some really tough questions that I was trying to figure out. And so I would just research folks on the platform of like, okay, this person would be able to help out with this specific question. And sometimes you hit it off. So there's platforms like that. I think we're in this age where people are accessible in ways that they weren't. Technology is great. We can build a Shopify store in a couple days, and that helps out a ton of entrepreneurs. If that didn't exist, it'd be really hard for me to start my business, and a lot of other folks too. I know that. But we're at a place where there's great people that are accessible, whether just shooting them an email, a well-crafted email. I haven't been very successful with direct messages, social media, but I always found out, like, if you're willing to put the effort into, you can get people on the phone. It is possible. And even a great story like Sarah Blakely, when she was trying to, sell her product into stores, people were like, how'd you get into this store? She was like, I called them. And people just don't realize how simple it is. You need to get in touch with people. There are ways to get in touch with people, but you need to be out there, shake hands with people, but nothing. Yeah. And I've placed a ton of phone calls to people that I wanted to connect with that didn't shake out to be anything. But then all of a sudden one happens and you're like, wow, that was fantastic.
when I reached a point where I had a problem I needed solving or a question that I needed answered, and that triggers this activity, I think that's super smart. Like just kind of aimlessly looking for a mentor. I think mentorship in general is so effing valuable.
Yeah.
But if you're like, this is the specific thing that I need help with, it can not only target it, but also me very like you're respecting that person's time as well. Cause you're like, this is exactly what I need. And I know you're the person that can help me with it.
Yes. And never forget that people want to help. All I can think about is if my business succeeds to a level, all I would want to do at a point was to help people do that, because you know the journey, you know how hard it is. And I found that everybody I've talked to that was at that level of like, you know, selling a business for like tons of money and just being there and being successful, they are so generous. If you, you know, obviously show that generosity to them, you know, proactively, and you're a good person, they really want to help, even if they're hugely successful. If you can find time with them and are genuine about it, it's possible. And I would say almost necessary to have someone like that to make the business go well, because it'll get to a point where you just don't know what to do. And that's I got to that point.
And giving back, especially as someone who's been mentored, you can't help but want to do that.
Of course.
It makes sense. It's this whole pay it forward.
It's a pay it forward thing. Yeah. And there's something about human nature about that. I think there is. Hopefully I get to that point and I can get back. And having conversations like this, I think, are really helpful to people. You don't know what conversation you have where a little soundbite will pick up with someone. I love that you guys are doing this, right?
Well, also, I mean, and us being able to just hear your wisdom, I'm storing all these nuggets, man. Like, it's great. Yeah.
I appreciate
so much
that.
value.
I hope, yeah. I hope it's wisdom.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to know what the best advice you received, but also the worst advice you received. You could start with either.
Oh, man. There's been so much good advice. I guess there's been bad advice too.
Yeah, or you can just focus on one.
Okay. One thing that immediately pops into my mind. So I have this website, right? And of course, everybody's going to have ideas about like what you need to do. And most people will say, you might as well do this. You might as well offer this type of product. But I've learned over time, and they're just trying to help out, which is a good thing. But you really need to be specific about what you do and what you do not do. And that's very important. We have this niche, right? I made a pivot just to do music artwork. Sometimes people are like, oh, why don't you have this, you know, frame this picture of Van Gogh? You might as well, right? But that's not our brand. That's not who we are. So you really need to stay specific. I've learned that over the past couple of years. Just like, know who you are, know your path, and stick to it. And because I know years ago, I would have said, yeah, you're right. Why don't we just throw this up on the website and see if it will sell? But number one, it probably won't, because it's off brand. So that's some of like the poor advice. But you know, people are just trying to help out. So it's more so you just understanding that, hey, we are this, we are not this. And you need to deflect a lot of things that you are not.
Yeah, you get lost in that.
You just get so lost, you never find your road. And you're lucky enough to have a road. I'm lucky enough to have a business that people pay money for this product. We love the product, but so we've got something. So let's stick to it. Let's stay on brand. There might be some other products we can do that we're thinking about that's going to be fun, but it's going to be very, very on brand. So I think that would be the poor advice.
With podcasting, we've heard over and over too, you have to stick with it. It's a bit of a slow play or a long play. And so many people give up, or they try to pivot or make an adjustment too soon, and then they lose everything. It sounds very applicable for all businesses, really, when we think about it in this lens.
Yeah, I would say exactly that. So the good advice would be just do that. Stick to what you're good at, and don't get off brand.
Is there a process there for determining what you'll funnel versus deflect, or how do you have the self-control? Because like you said, you guys make these exceptional music artwork pieces.
Yeah.
You could become a framing company that just frames everything, but then you're a different business. I've struggled with that, and we've niched down a little, or like when I have a YouTube channel and I kind of deviated until I found my niche. What was your process, and how would you suggest someone be able to be confident that even though it's a very specific thing, it doesn't need to be broad to attract the right people and the right success?
And just to give a little bit of context, so Drew, when he first started his website, he was framing art, photographs and actual art along with the records. It was a different business when he originally started, and now they're just focused on the music component.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what, my mentor, Johnny Schindler Riff, helped me out. I was like, hey, 95% of our sales is music motivated. I don't know if I should rebrand completely. And he's like, yeah, rebrand and become music. He's like, I can tell. He's like, number one, that's what you love the most. I can tell. I was like, absolutely. That's why I started the business. But I was like, I might as well, frame these beautiful pictures of Florence, Italy, right? That I love too, of course, but they weren't selling well. And people were having a hard time understanding who we were. They're like, oh, you kind of just do everything. And we're kind of getting lost in the whole picture of all the other companies, businesses that do that. But now that we're focused on music, number one, it's what we love doing, which it just feels right. But it's also what our customers want, And so we alleviated that. But to answer the question about staying true to your path, some people have different perspectives about this. And it's also a really good piece of advice is to stay small for a little bit longer than what you want to be, because it allows you room to pivot a little bit if necessary, and figure out what's working. I've seen actually a few competitors of mine go out of business because they tried to go too big too quickly. Everybody at the initial stage is in a very, very vulnerable place. And I've learned that pretty quickly. I didn't have enough cash to spend even tens of thousands of dollars monthly on ads. And I knew that probably wasn't the wisest thing to do, because the orders, you'll get orders because you're spending so much money, but you're not going to get the returns that you need, and you're going to run out of cash very, very quickly. But more importantly for me, staying small for a big time, and now we're going through a little bit of growth, which is great, but it allowed us time to find out who we were, and really narrow that in. That would be the advice I would give to people too. Don't be afraid to just stay small for a little bit of time, because you can change things when you're small. When you're bigger, it's hard to, it's a lot harder to change.
It's awesome. I think the pivoting or the opening the niche or adding products is this desire. And I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs are extremely impatient. It's like, yeah, I need to have 1,000 products on the website tomorrow, instead of being like, well, then, like you're saying, we become a framing company, but we're actually a music artwork company.
Right.
And that's a huge difference.
Huge difference. I've had that thought. We know so much about the framing world now, and in particular, how to frame stuff amazingly and ship it, that I was like, oh, we could set up another brand, but it's not, it's a different company.
That's a really good,
Yeah. So it's not bad to have those ideas, but differentiating what belongs in this brand and what doesn't is really, really powerful. And it still takes me a long time to reconcile that. But I think over the years, I helped reconcile that, of like, okay, no, that's not what we do. Great idea. We have we have the skills and expertise to do that, but that's something different. And it's really important as an entrepreneur, I think, to understand that, because people are going to have ideas all the time, like, hey, might as well do this, might as well do this. And you got to just be like, no, great idea, thank you, but we're doing this. This is it. And just be amazing at that. That's probably the best piece of advice I've learned in the past couple of years.
That's amazing, dude. I'm so happy to hear that, because I've definitely, like, you've seen me kind of like ping pong around a little bit. It's, early in my entrepreneurial career.
That's what entrepreneurs do too.
I'm like, oh, that worked. Let me try that. I'm bored of that. What about this? There's more people that watch this. See like a TikTok video. You're like, I could do that. I think a lot of it is you grow the blade of grass, and then you're like, I don't want to water that one anymore. And then you start growing, and you can only move so many units of energy. And so if you have 100 a day and you're moving 100 things, you don't get anywhere. 100 units, one thing, boom, you're flying.
Boom, you're flying, yeah. And it's natural. I think all entrepreneurs are idea people too. So it's great to have those ideas too, right?
So many ideas.
Yeah, so many ideas.
Too many ideas.
But in defaulting to, the answer is always what you love the most too. Because there's always things that pop up like, oh, we could do that. Yeah, we could do that. But like, you know what? All your energy needs to be doing into the thing that you love.
Yeah, you have the energy for it then.
You have the energy for it. You would just naturally do it. If it was something else, you wouldn't do it. You'd rather just watch TV.
Recently, I've been using this litmus test. I'm glad it segued into this. When I finish a task and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, oh, I need to do more of that. Because I think a lot of times in business, there's so many tasks that are just kind of admin BS or just stuff you like have to do, not want to do. So when you find a task or a thing or a topic that you get that juice during and after, or you're like, yeah, I feel so good that I did that. That's it's cool that you've using that as your litmus test for keeping your niche, your zone of genius intact, and kind of keeping it bubbled in an intelligent way.
Exactly. We live in a world of nuance. And when you start a business, it's like the abyss. I've heard people explain it that way, and now I understand it a bit, right? And there's so many nuances. So you're lucky.
So many black holes.
Yeah. So just like stick to what is you, and just keep on doing that. Yeah. And it should always just be so inherent. So that's what I try to think of my mentality too. So I listen to podcasts about that. Just remind yourself who you are, what your business does. And those things should be like in sync. And luckily, my business is music artwork is what I love. Just keep on going back to that. That's what we do. And the rest is for someone else.
Oh, I love it. I think that's a perfect place to end. So everybody go immediately on your browser, Deep Cut Collections with an S at the end.com. You can also find Drew on TikTok. Drew, do you want to promote your website a bit more?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah. deepcutcollections.com. You can go there, find your favorite music albums. It's easy to navigate through, search your favorite albums. We also launched iconic music posters that are fantastic. We're thinking about adding some more products soon, which is going to be great, all music motivated. But it's easy to find these amazing pieces of artwork, whether it's for your home collection or your office collection or your commercial space. We're happy to help out. And if you don't see albums that, if some albums are not on the website that you want, you can always shoot us an email at support@deepcutcollections.com, and we'll track down those albums and we'll get them for you. We'll frame them and we'll ship them to you too as well.
Because as Drew mentioned at the beginning, it's a perfect gift.
Perfect gift too as well. We love it.
All of our friends, we all have one because we love it so much, and they're the best. Every day, I'm telling you, every day I walk in there, I see that Beatles album, and I'm like, oh, that girl that was listening to that album, she was a little hood rat, and now look at her. Still a hood rat.
I love that.
Yeah, but we love that. We love that about you. Yeah,
thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Drew. You're the best. I feel super energized, super excited, super happy. And I'm also really grateful because it's so nice. You're a step ahead of me, and you've been so kind and generous with your time and your advice, and it just means the world to me.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I will say she speaks very highly of you, and you've been like a big value. And I've even taken advice by osmosis from you, so thanks a lot, dude.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm always down. Yeah, I'm always down to talk, and thank you guys for having me. This has been amazing. You guys, this is gonna work, and you guys are gonna kill it. I love it.
Thanks, Drew.
Yeah.
If you like this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with 1,000 people. Drop a comment. Check out Drew, deepcutcollections.com. And what was your Instagram?
Instagram is at deepcutcollections. Nice and easy.
We'll put those links below in the comments. Drew, absolute pleasure, dude. Literally so many nuggets. And I know we're outering here, and I'm doing an Italian goodbye. But one thing that I've been struggling with a lot is this staying in my zone of genius instead of niche. I'm so happy that just by coincidence or law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, you identified that as this massively important facet of this maybe expeditious success. I just feel grateful that it was almost like this clairvoyant happened. So I appreciate that a ton, man.
Good. Yeah. No, it's amazing. I'm glad I can help out with that. And this has been vice versa. Yeah, I'm getting nuggets out of this conversation too as well. So this is great.
It's great.
Yeah, I love it.
Sit here all day.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
I'm like,
How do we end it?